Right, good afternoon, dear students. Well, I'm going to continue my lecture in this video form. In this particular lecture, we're going to be listening to the major job attitudes that are usually expected in organizations and the kind of attitudes that employees working in the organization would have to display. So this whole module on attitudes has given you a deeper insight into the role of attitudes and how attitudes form that very important prerequisite for our behavior. So when we go into the organization and we're expected to play and perform a very professional role, uh, our behavior is largely determined by the attitudes that we carry. So as from the employee's responsibility, so you need to be aware of the job attitudes that are expected in the organization and how you are supposed to play and perform that role. And as management from the organization's part and side, so they will also be very keen on trying to look and understand, uh, how to understand how employees are able to, or whether employees are able to express those expected job attitudes. So that's going to be the X factor that's going to determine your success in the organization as well as in the organization, your success as well as in your career at large. So let us look at what are those major job attitudes that are expected in the organization. So the first job attitude that's expected in the organization is job satisfaction. The second is job involvement. Third is organizational commitment. Fourth is employee engagement. Fifth is perceived organization support. Right? So the five important job attitudes that are expected by the organizations from employees, and also for employees to understand these attitudes well and then be able to know how to play and perform these roles well. So let's look at all of these a little in detail. What is job involvement? The first aspect that we're looking at, first major job attitude that's expected from employees in the organization, is job involvement. It is the degree to which a person identifies with a job, actively participates in it, and considers performance important to self-worth. So in very simple understanding, whenever you do something, how involved are you? Are you partially involved, or are you involved, just half to the course, or are you completely involved? So let's look at a couple of examples. Look for instances or examples where you are completely involved, right? Like, for example, when you do something that you like, or when you are indulging in a hobby, or when you're indulging in your favorite sport, or you're playing a certain game that you're very interested in. In all of this, you tend to get so involved that you very often forget the sense of time, right? Or you forget the sense of hunger, right? So a lot of time you skip and you don't know. Suddenly you're surprised when you look at your watch and say, "Oh my God, did I really spend 3 hours doing this?" So that's involvement, right? So this is one attitude that we're expecting from employees in the organization, right? Now the question is, when you're indulging in a hobby or a game or a sport, that's something that you like. Very often employees may be working in organizations or doing roles, or maybe working under a certain supervisor, or be doing a task that's a little uncomfortable. That's something that they may not fully like. So how can you expect job involvement in areas where you do not like, or you're not interested? So a lot of times this like and dislike factor is what becomes very expressive in our behavior. When we like something, we are very energetic, very overjoyed, we're completely excited. There's a lot of high energy that we are able to show and express. We are very good with our superiors and so on. But on the contrary, when you do something that you don't like, right? So it shows, because your mind itself, your attitude, your cognitive, your affective itself is showing a certain sense of dislike, and that becomes obvious in our behavior, right? So we may not be very initiative oriented, we may be very withdrawn, or we may be very sloppy in what we do, or we may be very casual in what we do, or we may not take our task very seriously, right? So, but this is something that organization behavior experts will have to see. What is that we do with all those people who generally tend to have a dislike towards their job. How do you get them more involved, right? So there are a couple of strategies that organizations generally look for, and what they can do about. So how do you increase high levels of job involvement and psychological empowerment? Basically, understanding that you feel good about what you do and you are very involved in what you in the job that you perform. So how do we increase job performance among the employees? How do we make every employee understand his or her job, role, responsibility, and give them that scope, freedom, autonomy, and then they're able to perform their jobs well, right? And how do you increase organization citizenship behavior? A certain very interesting attitude that we are able to see, where an employee is able to go beyond the confines of specified duties and roles, right? So how do we do that? That's on one side. On the other side, we are looking at absenteeism, resignations, and then cribbing in the organization, complaints, grievances, yeah, being absent from work, or the shoddy or sloppy kind of work. All that kind of needs to reduce, right? So generally, you will see those who like their jobs will obviously show high job performance and high organization citizenship behavior, and those who do not like generally will be absent from work or will be very sloppy, not serious, not initiative oriented, and they may be finding excuses to skip work, and then finally they may quit the organization. So how do we increase job involvement? How will you make people get involved in what you're doing? That's where a lot of strategies in HR have been devised and developed, both in human resource development and as well as in organization design, organization development, where we basically tend to see how to get workers um, more involved, or how do we ensure workers participative in management and decision making processes. So these are a couple of strategies that could be done, could be used effectively to increase job involvement, right? Involving employees in decision making, right? Very important factor. Second is making them feel that their job is important, that the work that they are doing is extremely important. So you don't categorize that as high quality work, or high status work or low status work. You are ensuring dignity of labor, your dignity of work. Are you saying that everybody is important in the organization because everybody chips in with their specific role and responsibility, and that's what contributes to an organization doing well? Third is you provide feedback. You give them timely feedback. You appreciate them. You tell them that they're doing a good job. Are you telling them, if you weren't there, or if you weren't there here to handle this particular situation and problem, I mean, we wouldn't have been able to do it, right? Show them their rate of contribution. Everybody must be able to know what's the kind of contribution that they make to the organization, and how important each and every person's role and responsibility and the work that they contribute and deliver is important to the organization. And lastly, give them autonomy on how to do things, right? So give them the freedom and independence. Once they know what their job is, give them the freedom. Let them, do not micromanage them. Do not have supervisors always surveilling and snooping on what they're doing, right? So once they know their job and you feel they're confident and independent enough to do things on their own, so let them go ahead and do it. Second important job attitude that's required in the organization is called organizational commitment. So the degree to which an employee identifies with a particular organization and its goals and wishes to maintain membership in the organization is organizational commitment. So how committed and loyal are you to the goals and to the job that you are rendering in this particular organization, right? So that's what we call organization commitment, the degree of loyalty that you're able to show and express to the organization that you work for. So there are three types of organization commitment that we talk about. The first one is called affective commitment. The second type is normative commitment. Third is continuance commitment. So basically three different forms of commitment that employees generally express as part of organizational commitment, right? So let's look at what each of these is. These are examples that I have for each of these points. Affective commitment is, I will stay with my organization because of its values. So if there is an employee, or if you are that employee in the organization, where you like this organization because of their vision, because of their mission, because of the kind of products and services that they manufacture, because of what they do to the what they do to the customers, what they deliver to the customers, and the kind of value that they are able to give back to society. So if you like what your organization stands for, if you like what your organization is doing, and if you're connected and connected to the organization psychologically, you love your organization basically, right? So that sort of commitment is called, and when you stick with it, that sort of commitment is called effective commitment. So this is what is ultimately expected, a very positive form of commitment. This is very unconditional love and loyalty that you have for your organization. The second is called continuous commitment. You will stay with the organization. So one group of employees that you will find in the organization who stay in the organization because of the benefits that it offers. So you're doing a cost benefit analysis, right? For the amount of effort that you're putting in and contributing to the job that you are doing. What's the amount of benefit that you're receiving? That's one thing. Second is, you could also make a comparison with you working in this organization and the benefits that you are receiving vis-a-vis another organization that you could work for, right? Or you were working, or you could be working for in the future, or you're doing that basic, surface level research to find out, what if I work in another organization, what am I going to get? So when you understand and realize that the benefits that you receive in this organization is much greater than what you receive in another organization, you stay put with this organization, and that's called continuous commitment. Normative is, you have a certain sense of indebtedness. You have a certain sense of giving back to the organization. So this is normative. I will stay with the organization because of the training that they provided me, or I will stay with this organization because I've signed a contract with them that I will be working for 3 years. So you hang on there, not because you like and love the organization. You hang on because there's a certain sense of indebtedness, or there's a certain sense of duty that you're bound by, that you want to stick with the organization. So second important type of job attitude is organizational commitment, right? So this will give you the explanation of whatever I just explained to you. Third job attitude that's expected in the organization is called perceived organizational support. Now, what is this? A degree to which employees believe an organization values their contribution and cares about their well-being. This is called perceived organizational support. What is the extent, the degree to which you think and believe that my organization cares for me, or my organization will stand by me when I go through a certain problem or a difficulty in personal and professional life? So if you believe and have the sense of trust, all right, for your organization, and then you believe that your organization will always stand with you and by you, that is called perceived organization support, right? And when you are able to have this greater sense of perceived organization support, right, that you are able to derive from the organization that you're working for, obviously your attitude towards your job and the attitude towards those whom you serve will be a lot more higher, right? That's what you see down here. Three important areas where perceived organization support has been a very important influencing factor. That those who are able to experience, those employees who are able to experience higher degree of strong perceived organization support will be able to serve their customers well and better. They'll go out of their way to serve their customers or clients that they're serving, and obviously the kind of feedback that they receive from their customers and clients will be very good. Secondly, these employees with high and strong perceived organization support will be able to render high levels of organization citizenship behavior. And thirdly, obviously, because of high POS that they have, they will be a lot more tardy at work. They will be, less more lazy, and absenteeism, resignation, attrition, all of those issues will obviously come down. In fact, they will be highly productive. That's what we mean. Low levels of tardiness refers to the outcome where they are able to, be more productive. They're not very lethargic, lazy, and not contributing to the organization. On the other hand, they are very productive and contributory to the organization. So how do we increase perceived organization support? One is by fair rewards, right? Ensuring that wages and salaries and incentives, allowances to employees are fairly given and distributed according to the effort and the contribution that they make to the organization. Secondly, this is enabled through very supportive managers, leaders, and supervisors that you have in the organization. They take care of you well. They are there for you. They listen to your grievances. They're able to find out what your problem is, and they're able to set right any difficulty or issue that you are facing. Thirdly, they involve you in decision making, right? So when an organization is able to do all this, you feel that the organization, you know, gives me that importance, makes me feel very worthy, and also respects the dignity of my job, my work, my performance, and my contribution, and what I give to the organization as such. So that's the third major attitude that's very important. Fourth major attitude that's very important in the organization is employee engagement. So the employee's involvement, satisfaction, and enthusiasm for the work that he or she does is called employee engagement. So how do you engage with your employees on an everyday basis? Is that engagement very mechanical, very structure oriented, very systematic, very informal? So sometimes when organizations follow things like in a very structured manner, in a very formal manner, and there is a lot of distance between these between the management and the employees, they feel a certain sense of disconnect, and that could lead to higher levels of disengagement. So engaging with the workforce, engaging with the employees must be on a continuous basis. So they feel that they are liked and wanted, and the organization must be able to constantly engage them, not just through formal, but also through several informal ways, so that they are able to, have that connect, get involved, and then make them, participative in every process of the organization. So automatically, when that happens, you will start seeing greater customer service. Your organization collectively will be able to see gross profits go up, and your employees contribution will be much more higher than what you expect from them, and likewise, and because of which your organization could also become highly productive. Turnovers could come down, employees quitting the organization, attrition rates could come down, and then accidents could come down, absenteeism could come down. A lot of those everyday issues that many organizations face and grapple to find a solution is something that you will not be able to feel if you are able to have your employees engaged and you do everything possible to give them the best sort of an experience when they come and work and continue to live in the organization. The last important job attitude that's very important is job satisfaction, right? A positive feeling about one's job resulting from an evaluation of its characteristics. So ultimately, with whatever you are doing, with those duties, roles, responsibilities that you are undertaking, right? A certain sense of satisfaction, a certain sense of happiness, a certain sense of joy that you're able to experience in what you do, that is satisfaction, right? So that is an attitude, right? So if you're a very optimistic person, and if you look for positive things in everything that you do, you're very mindful of everything that you do, right? So obviously, such kind of individuals with such kind of possessing such kind of attitudes will basically experience higher forms of job satisfaction. So employees with high levels of job satisfaction hold very positive feelings about their jobs, while employees with low levels of job satisfaction will hold very negative feelings, and they'll obviously be filled with complaints and grievances about everything that they're doing in the organization. So according to its importance and direct impact on performance, the study will detail things like that. So how do we understand job satisfaction to a greater extent? So that's where we are offshooting with the last job attitude, right? The offshoot of the last job attitude is going to help us to understand four important theories that are available with the HR discipline, right? To help us know how we can improve, how we can work on increasing job satisfaction for our employees, and how we can employ these theories or apply these theories to be able to create that perfect organizational climate and environment, and then ensure better engagement for our employees in the organization. So there are basically four theories that we're going to talk about, which is going to help us to know how to apply these theories and to ensure higher degrees of job satisfaction for our employees in the organization. Let's go to the first theory. The first theory is called the affect theory. So Edwin A. Locke, right? Edwin A. Locke's range of affect theory, 1976, is arguably the most famous job satisfaction model. The main premise of this theory is that Satisfaction is determined by a discrepancy between what one wants in a job and what one has in a job. So basically, we're looking at the degree. It talks about the degree between the expectations and the aspirations of the individual and the expectations and aspirations that the organization is offering to the individual. So between it basically is the difference between what I expect and what I want to do on the job and what I'm actually getting and what I'm actually experiencing on my job. So the difference is this. So when my matches expectation of my job matches with what I am actually doing, then I'm really happy. That's what we generally say will lead to affect organization commitment, right? When I know that my expectation, what I thought about what I will do on the job, and my expectations before coming into the organization, based on the promises that the organization placed before me at the time of recruitment process, selection, all of that. When I realize that what I'm doing is not exactly matching with what I expected, what I thought I will be doing in the organization, so that will increase discrepancy, right? So that negative discrepancy that you will see is what will lead to dissatisfaction. So organization must be able to find out, right, whether employees are happy. So you've got to conduct these surveys, you've got to conduct attitudinal surveys, you've got to conduct job satisfaction surveys to find out, get some feedback. Or if supervisors are very keen and alert, they can always study body languages, they can always study behaviors of their subordinates and be able to know whether something is bothering them, whether they're happy or not happy at all. So that's where the affect theory is very important. Being able to know whether it's positive discrepancy or whether it's negative discrepancy. And if you're able to know it's negative discrepancy, finding out what's the cause of that negative discrepancy and then trying to ensure that you're able to find out some means and measures by which you can help the employee to overcome that negative discrepancy. The second model that we have is called Frederick Herzberg's two-factor theory, right? Very prominently in the field of organization behavior, the two-factor theory is used as a model for motivation. It forms as one of the content theories that we will be able to describe and explain when we come into the module on motivation. But generally, Frederick Herzberg talks about this, right? The theory begins with Frederick Herzberg going and conducting a survey, right? He goes to he goes to a sample size of close to around 220 people, and different kinds of workers, people in administration, people in accounting, people who are engineers, goes to different employees who were employed in different forms of employment at that point of time, and asks them this question: what makes you very happy about work? So in that entire survey that he conducted to find out the sources of satisfaction or the sources of dissatisfaction, with a whole lot of reasons that the respondents were able to give, he was able to collate them into two factors. One factor he called as motivators, and another factor he called as hygiene, right? So he looked at two factors and said most of the reasons that they gave fell into one of these two categories. So under the motivator factors, when Herzberg asked this question, what makes you very happy and satisfied with work? They said, the sense of achievement that I receive when I do my job gives me satisfaction. Somebody else said that the recognition that I get, right, that appreciation, that recognition that I get, my bosses in the organization, my managers in the organization tell me that you have done this, or you are contributor, you're the cause for such a wonderful result that we have in the organization. So that sort of appreciation and recognition is what makes me highly motivated. Third is the responsibility that I have. The role and responsibility that I play on my job is what makes me satisfied, because I'm in a very key position which does all these things for the organization. Fourthly, the job that I do itself is so challenging. It's so nice. I like what I'm doing. This is what I always like. This is what I studied for. And the job is really challenging. The job is really exciting. The work itself, the kind of tasks, duties, and responsibilities itself is very, very satisfying. Advancement, the kind of promotions and the kind of growth that I'm able to receive in the organization is what makes me satisfied. And then personal growth. individually as an employee from the time I came into the organization and to where I am and how I've grown personally, also have improved and developed. So he was able to club all these 6 factors together and say these are called the motivator factors, right? And then on the other hand, he said the other set of factors are called the hygiene factors. Hygiene factors are some of the respondents said that I like the working conditions in this organization. I like the organization because of the facilities, the working conditions, the buildings, the furniture, everything, right? Second set of employees, they said, I like the good relations that I have with my managers or my peer team. I have a very good team that I can work with very nice and well, right? My co-workers relationship is really good. Thirdly, I like this organization, or I'm satisfied with the organization because of its people friendly rules and policies, right? I love them. Fourth, I like the quality of supervision. I like the managers who I work under, the approach that they have, the manner in which they guide me, correct me, give me feedback. The quality of supervision is what makes me satisfied, and I really feel happy working under these supervisors and managers who are working in the organization. Last of all, employees said that I really like the salary that they give me here, one of the best salaries that we receive in the industry, or this organization pays me well or better than anybody else, right? So Herzberg was able to talk about these 2 set of factors, and he says that improving the satisfier or the motivators increases job satisfaction, and improving the hygiene factors decreases the job satisfaction, right? So he was able to talk about motivators as intrinsic factors, mostly those factors that come from the job that you do, intrinsic. And then he was able to classify the hygiene as extrinsic factors, factors that are not related to the job, but are related to things outside the job, which is still part of the organization. Like, for example, achievement is related to the job that you do. Working conditions is related to what the organization is able to offer. And it may not be just for you. Working conditions could be the same for everybody working in the organization. Policies could be same for everybody working in the organization. Whereas recognition and responsibility could be pertaining to the job that you do alone. So work itself, right? So which means the intrinsic factors, all these sources, or the motivators that come out emanate from the job that you do. You emanate from the job and the job description and the responsibility that you are performing. Whereas hygiene factors are related to things that are outside your job but related to the organization. The next important model that is very important, like how do you build? Now, when you go back to that question of motivators, how do you build in achievement? You want to ensure everybody is doing a job where their intrinsic factors contribute to their status of job satisfaction. How do you increase achievement? How do you increase recognition? How do you increase responsibility? How do you increase challenging and very, you know, uh, very attacking kind of responsibilities that are on the job? That is where we go back to a model called the job characteristics model. So Hackman and Oldham were the contributors of this particular model. It's called the job characteristics model, which is widely used as a framework to study how particular job characteristics can impact outcomes and then job satisfaction as well, right? So according to Hackman and Oldham, they talk about 5 important areas, right? 5 important areas that if we are able to build in the job, when we design a job, right? If we are able to build or incorporate these characteristics into the job, then automatically the outcomes will always be leading to job satisfaction. So the 5 areas that they were able to talk about were, or list out, were skills variety. When you design a job, make sure that you have enough skill variety that is put into the job, so that when the employee is able to perform the job, or when he or she is doing the job, they do not experience monotony. They do not experience doing the same thing again and again. So when you create a job, when you have put in enormous skill variety, it challenges the knowledge, the skill, and the capacity, and the capability component of the employee. Secondly, task identity. Place the task in such a responsible manner that you are able to show that in the organization structure, right? You're able to place that particular job on the organization structure or in the department structure, and then you're able to say, this is the job, this is where your position lies, or this is where you lie in the hierarchy, or this is the importance that your job has in the overall contribution that you make, that your job makes to the organization. So that's task identity, right? Specifying the very important role that your job performs for not just the department, but for the organization as well. The third element that they talk about is called task significance. Now, task significance is, the importance in terms of the contribution that your job is able to give to the organization, right? How important is your job, or how worthy is your job to the organization? So that must be specified and built and incorporated into the organization, into the job that you are designing. Two important aspects: autonomy, freedom, which means ensuring that the responsibility is designed in such a manner, the role and responsibility and the tasks are designed in such a manner that you're able to create autonomy, you're able to ensure independence, right? That the employee will be able to do his or her job independently. And lastly, ensuring that your job is able to ensure that there is enough feedback that the employee is able to receive about how well a job or how well a performance he or she performed. Right? So if you're able to take care of these, then the motivator component that Herzberg spoke about can be taken care of well. So if you're able to do this, automatically the outcomes will be there. So when you're able to see skill variety, when you're able to see task identity, when you're able to see task significance, automatically if your job includes all these three elements, then you are going to feel your job to be a lot more meaningful. You feel very wholesome about you performing a job, and that automatically will lead to a good sense of job satisfaction. If your job incorporates autonomy and feedback, if you're able to receive these two things, if your job has enough autonomy and independence, then you become responsible, you become accountable to the tasks that are given to your in charge, and you become responsible for doing it. And likewise, similarly, if your job is able to provide enough feedback, then you are able to know of the results. You're able to get knowledge of the results, which is a feedback of how well a job that you have done. So if you're able to build all of that, if you're able to put variety, identity, significance, autonomy, and feedback, if you're able to build that, incorporate that while you are designing a job, that automatically will motivate anybody who's doing the job, and that ultimately will lead to a sense of job satisfaction. So that's a framework that we've got to bear in mind every time we go about designing a job. The next theory that we're going to talk about is called the dispositional approach. So the dispositional approach suggests that individuals vary in their tendency to be satisfied with their jobs. In other words, job satisfaction to a large extent is an individual trait. So the question is here, I think a question that would have already creeped into your mind when I said that is, there's no one size that fits all, which means satisfaction is a very subjective component. Satisfaction is a very subjective context, right, for different individuals. So what can make me satisfied may not be the same. If working conditions is something that I like, it may not be the case with anybody else. It may not be the case with my colleague, right? So it is dispositional, which means it depends on every individual, how every individual is able to perceive. It depends on how every individual is able to act according to what is expected and to the job that they are performing, right? So this approach became a notable explanation of job satisfaction in light of evidence that job satisfaction tends to be stable over time and across careers and jobs, which means if when when this theory was found out, when they did a lot of research, they found out that there was consistency with certain individuals who expressed job satisfaction throughout, whereas those who expressed job dissatisfaction also had that consistency, that they were dissatisfied with almost every kind of job that was given to them. So that is where they said, if you are not satisfied with what you're doing in one organization, okay, when you shift to another organization, it's expected that you will get what you want, that you will be satisfied. But if you're not satisfied with one organization and you go to another two or three organizations and you're still having that sense of feeling, that's a big question mark that we need to probe to find out, right? So what is this? And that's what led to disposition and saying that it's got nothing to do with organizations, right? And it could be because it could be with how every individual is able to relate to that particular context. So research also indicates that identical twins raised apart have similar levels of job satisfaction. So they could have the same sense of understanding and feeling. So that's where we, that's where this model was explained by Timothy Judge, Edwin Locke, and Durham in 1997. They talk about four things, right? So now that you've started your lessons on personality. So personality basically will help you to understand each and every individual's disposition. So here we are talking about disposition. What makes those individuals look at things very differently? So that's where we look at, that's where this particular theory is able to explain four elements. You will find the four elements similarly when you look at any one of the theories of personality later when you go into those lessons. The first is self efficacy. Individuals believe about their components. So, what is self efficacy? The capacity or the belief that you have that you can handle things, that you're competent enough to handle any situation. This is self efficacy. So, individuals with high self efficacy will automatically be able to be happy and satisfied with their job compared to those with low self efficacy, right? Second, self-esteem. Individuals who believe about themselves and place a higher value on them. So if you feel good about yourself, you feel very strong about your capabilities. That leads to high self-esteem. So individuals with high self-esteem will obviously be more job satisfied in comparison to those with low self-esteem. Thirdly, locus of control. The degree to which an individual believes that he or she is in control of the job and knows what he or she needs to do on the job, that is called locus of control. So if you have a higher locus of control, you will be job satisfied compared to you having low locus of control leading to job dissatisfaction. Neuroticism, the extent to which an individual is able to handle, manage, and control his anger, his or her anger, anxiety, envy, depressed mood, emotions, feelings. If you are able to be in control of them, and if you are able to manage them and know uh, how to relate to problems and situations, then that's where we say that you're able to do well. So somebody with a good sense of neuroticism will be able to achieve it. So this is a combination that is going to decide your disposition towards your attitude. So that's what is going to lead to ultimately you expressing a sense of job satisfaction or dissatisfaction. So this is where there is a different degree. All of us are not made of the same kind. Our experiences are not the same. But nevertheless, these are the elements that creates differences among different individuals. So we are all different personalities, and depending on who we are and what we are is how we relate to the world outside. So that's what will lead to job satisfaction, as I just explained. So how do we measure? Now we're coming to the point, how do we understand job satisfaction? How do we measure? Right? So there are attitudinal surveys. There are that's one way we can do, or there are these job satisfaction surveys that are available that can be provided. So you're able to get a good impact and input of whether your employees in your organization are happy, satisfied, contented with whatever they are doing. And more importantly, it's important for every leader and manager, supervisors in the organization to be able to know their teams well. They must be able to know their subordinates well, understand who they are, what they are, and be able to engage with them. So you're able to get some feedback about the kind of job that they do. And it could also be, you should also be able to be good at studying their changes in emotions, changes in mood, and changes in body language and behavior, and then be able to speak to them closely to find out what is that they are going through and find out ways and means by which you can help them to solve those issues. So that's where we look at various factors, right? So performance indicators to measure job satisfaction. Some of those points that we've listed here. Observing employees at the first day in the week and the last day in the week. Employees tend to be less productive on Mondays and Fridays, but with high job satisfaction, they will feel enthusiastic to go to work after weekend and perform well. So A measure of job attitude, whether you like your job or not. Effective commitment, if you are very high on effective commitment, you will always be very enthusiastic on a Monday to come, compared to those who are who have Monday blues and cry and crib about not coming on Mondays, or very frequently absent on Mondays. Observe employees' attitudes towards participating in optional programs, right? So another way by which you can find out is to find out anything that's optional and not compulsory. When you're able to know when individuals are not registering for optional programs, or they are not available at times when you expect them and it's not compulsory, so those individuals who kind of keep away from all these optional programs are also another way by which you can find out whether they're involved, and it also is an expression of their attitude. Then other observe performance standards, but the main problem here in the employees might perform well because of their attitude of being excellent and not because of their jobs. So body language sometimes may also be very deceptive, is what that particular point explained. But it's very important for every leader, manager, and supervisor to be closely watching, because if you work with a certain employee for a certain period of time, you're able to know how this person is, what is his mental makeup, and how does he go about doing things. And if you're able to see some consistent uh, things that are very often observable and very often coming to your notice, and if it's not right and not in accordance with what you expect about how the employee is supposed to be working and behaving, then that's a cause of concern that you can always take up and see how you can help them to overcome those negative job attitudes that they have. So these are some of those tools that are available. We have something called the Job Descriptive Index. So that measures different factors like pay, work, supervisor, co-workers, promotion, and promotional opportunities. So it's a scale that is developed. It's called the Job Description Index. So it's a survey that can be given to the employees, and based on the kind of responses that they give, you will be able to know whether they experience high levels of job satisfaction or high levels of job dissatisfaction, and also find out which are the areas where they feel happy and not happy. We also have another tool survey that's called the Minnesota Satisfaction Questionnaire. It's called the MSQ, that has 5 measures of job satisfaction, and it has about 100 questions looking at 5 different strong factors that explain. And we also have something called a job satisfaction survey that can also be given to your employees, that has 36 items, which means it has 36 questions on various aspects of the job, organization, and the life within the organization. And based on the responses that they give, you will be able to collate that data and then be able to know what percentages of employees in your organization are satisfied and what percentage are dissatisfied. Right. So finally, we're looking at how do we work towards satisfying employees. Right. So work on 3 things. 3 things are very important. One is work on the individual. More than anything else that you do, the person is more important. The personality of an individual is important. So you should be able to accept individuals like the way they are, and be able to help them to be good persons, work on improving their personality, their emotions, and involve to such an extent that they're able to have a good psychological experience of having working in your organization. Secondly, ensure the work itself is designed in such a way that it leads to job satisfaction. So job design, I spoke about, apply the job characteristics model, work on building effective and open, transparent, free-flowing communication, respective of hierarchies within your organization, uh, creating very good relationship between the management and the employees team, working on trying to see how we can work towards job employee recognition, rewards, appreciation, feedback. Ensure you build all of that so that they're able to tell the employee what he or she is doing and the kind of contributions that they're able to make to the organization. Work on improving good working conditions, because your employees spend quite a lot of time in the organization, and so the place where they work must be very conducive, must be ergonomically designed. The atmosphere, the climate within the organization, both physical and psychosocial, must be really good. And co-workers, and ensuring that you are able to have co-workers and train them well so that they are able to have very good peer one-to-one relationships, or good team relationships with everybody is also very important. And allow to a large extent work from home, possibilities of virtual conferencing or teleconferencing, flexi work, flexi week, and flexi time, right? Allow if there is a certain amount of flexibility that can be offered so that employees are able to balance their personal life as well as their professional life, even that can be taken care to a good extent, right? Last of all, we're looking at monitoring. Make sure you pay fair wages, right? Wages and salaries. Rewards must be fair, devoid of favoritism, bias, prejudice, and any other forms of manipulation there. Thirdly, promotion for the right candidate is very important. Career growth, working towards to ensure that you are able to help every individual to grow up in their careers and take up responsible positions later on when they grow older in the organization. And last of all, working on retirement plans to ensure that your employees will have a very decent living and will have a substantial monetary take home that they will get when they retire from the organization. So ensuring that you do all of this is the big responsibility of the organization and the management that's involved in doing all of this. So what's the impact of dissatisfaction? So basically there are four things that can happen, right? So this is a matrix that helps you to explain. The first one is what we look at as voice. Voice is active and constructive attempts to improve conditions. Like, for example, when an employee is dissatisfied at work, right, is dissatisfied, unhappy, has something that he or she wants to complain, right? And if there is, so as an organization, you must be able to open up certain platforms or forums where suggestions can be given, where grievances can be placed or complaints can be made, or whatever the employee is feeling and going through, he or she must get a vent out, must get a window through which he or she can explain. So if your organization is allowing for employees to raise their issues, worries, problems, difficulties, and concerns, and if your organization is taking that in the right spirit, not taking it very defensively, but taking it in the right spirit, understanding things from the employee's point of view, and is able to work towards overcoming those difficulties, issues, problems, then that's a very constructive kind of a phenomena. That's a combination where we look at active as well as constructive. So that's where very proactive and people friendly organizations will always work for. Secondly, you look at loyalty. So passively waiting for improving conditions. So wherein an employee has raised issues, problems, difficulties, and concerns, and is waiting for the organization to respond, and believes that the organization will do something about it. They will take it up in the right spirit and they will do it. So these are very passive kind of employees. They will not very strongly raise issues and concerns, but they will put it across in subtle ways, in smaller ways, trying to see that the organization will take it up and not make a big issue of what they are experiencing. But wherever they get an opportunity, they will try to put that in a very subtle manner. So these are very passive kind of employees. And the organization cannot take that passivity as an advantage. They should be able to, even if it comes through a very informal or a subtle manner, you're able to know sources of dissatisfaction. You should be able to see how you can work to improve that constructively. Third is neglect, right? So you're allowing the conditions to worsen, which is the issues or the problems and difficulties that the employees have raised. The organization is sweeping it under the carpet, or is turning a blind eye, or is trying to constantly ignore that issue whenever it comes up or whenever it is raised. So that's where it leads to a certain sense of neglect. It shows that the organization is not responding to the employees' issues and concerns in the right manner. So that's where employees feel that they are ignored, neglected, and that will lead to the final one that's called exit. Exit is where employees leave the organization because they have understood that the organization is not going to do anything to help them to overcome, solve their issues or problems. So they will feel that there's no point in working in this organization because this organization does not care for us, is not doing anything. So I don't want to really spoil my personal peace. So let's quit this and let me go and join another organization, right? So these are the kind of responses that employees will give to you when you are not able to handle your issues, or when you, on the other hand, handle issues in a very proactive manner and then you're able to ensure that your employees are able to experience a good sense of job satisfaction and self-worth within the organization, right? So these are the impacts of job satisfaction. So when you're able to work towards job satisfaction, do everything possible to provide a very good, uh, very good experience for the employees, you will see job performance going up, increase in organization citizenship behavior, increase in the number of customers who come back and give you a feedback saying that they're very happy with the product or the service, reduction in or the absenteeism number goes down, the turnover number goes down, and then workplace deviant behavior. Those employees who social loaf at work, or those who are always avoiding and ignoring and not responding to organizational expectation or to their attending to their responsibility as well. So workplace deviance behavior, giving excuses, finding all possible escape routes and shortcuts. So those kind of negative behaviors will also reduce, or will also get eliminated in the organization. So that's what job satisfaction can do. It does a lot of wonders. But as an organization, as OB experts, we need to see how we can work towards all of that to ensure that we create job satisfaction, a sense of job satisfaction, and a sense of job satisfaction automatically will lead to everything else that the organization wants and expects. Okay, so these are the explanations for each of those wonderful points. And so finally, we come to an end. Uh, as a conclusion, so that's very important. Attitudes play a very important role. So I began this lecture, you know, by stating that attitude is a very small thing, but it has a very huge impact when we look at it from an organization point of view, not just for the organization, but for the employee. So work on it, work on your attitudes, be self-aware of the certain things that you like or you dislike, find out all those pains and pain points that you have that very often becomes a hindering aspect to your sense of job satisfaction. And so that will definitely ensure that you will be able to enjoy experience the job well, and that ultimately will lead to a sense of job satisfaction. So work on it, and that's what will make you very good employees, happy, productive, and contributing to the organization. Thank you.